Hi everyone, Rick here. In Star Trek, a starship captain has control over their vessel with a great deal of autonomy. As long as the orders of Starfleet Command are carried out, they have given a good deal of leeway into how to approach a situation. Various vessels have different functions and responsibilities, and therefore it makes sense to have differing crews with expertise across the board. This also applies to the captain. So in this video, I thought we could look at just how captains are chosen and how one reaches that rank in the Federation. For non-Starfleet civilian captains, it's, well, pretty easy. You get a ship and make yourself captain. I mean, of course there's crew and documentation to consider, but basically it's straightforward as that. The most obvious method to command a starship is to enroll at Starfleet Academy with that goal in mind from the start. The Command Division is called that because, among other duties, it offers the most direct route to the captain's chair. There are numerous classes in diplomacy, resolution, tactics, philosophy and management that all go into educating a leader. This was collectively referred to as the Command Training Program, and one had to meet the requisite standards to be accepted into it during their second and third years. Someone at Starfleet Academy can literally beeline for a Starship Command if they wish it, and this is a major pull for ambitious new cadets. However, it is recommended, and in fact mandatory, to take other classes and specialties as you ascend through the years. Kirk is the prime example here. While he wanted to be a captain from day one, and in fact he held the title as the youngest to reach that rank in Starfleet history, his actual studies had him looking more into the tactical side of things. His first appointments were as a weapons officer before entering the command staff and eventually being promoted to captain on the recommendation of Christopher Pike. It also appears that Picard was always in the command division despite pursuing an interest in archaeology. It looks like he graduated in that division too, but it's a little fuzzier on the details in canon. Nevertheless, he's a natural leader. So, someone who passes through the academy might find that they become more drawn towards the idea of captaining a starship, and in this situation they can elect to transfer to the command division instead. From here they can then take the requisite classes and learn how to lead, while also maintaining a backing in their prior choices. This often allows the individual to be able to jump back and forth through the divisions as their roles require it, such as Benjamin Sisko and Worf. Worf began his career in the Command Division with a focus on tactics, before transferring to security and then back again. Sisko enrolled as an engineer and maintained that direction alongside the command program. Catherine Janeway was a science officer in physics and graduated as such before switching to command later in her career under the recommendation of Admiral Owen Paris, which shows us that the requisite training can be given even after graduation. Not all captains in rank are from the command division though. Captains from the science and engineering divisions are more likely to be appointed as heads of smaller teams on outposts and institutes rather than starship captains, such as Montgomery Scott, who was a captain in rank in the Corps of Engineers. Such positions carried all the authority of a captain but deferred to the starship captain if they were beyond their home turf. As the rank of captain was not as required in these departments, captains in the departments beyond the command division were rare to see. A solid reminder here, not every aspect of the command division was preparing people for Starship Command. Starship flight, tactical assessments and even simple administrative duties were also under the command division's umbrella. In non-canon material, Chekhov makes captain and beyond, but as far as we know in the lore, he remained a commander and preferred his roles as navigator and weapons officer. To be fair, I'd be totally okay with him being promoted. But for those who progressed through their career without command of a starship in mind, the Bridge Officer's Test was a thing. This was a command aptitude test that had various forms and could be overseen by any command level officer. The test, or tests, focused on looking at the suitability of a candidate to be responsible for the lives of a starship crew, among other traits that could be ultimately failed if the person issuing the test deemed the applicant would be unsuccessful. This would not lock them out of starship captaincy altogether, but would be a definite marker against such a promotion in the future. Passing the test added the officer to the pool of potential starship captains, or even added them to an existing vessel's command staff. The test can be undertaken by any individual of any rank and division, although an ensign is likely to be discounted. We saw Deanna Troi pass the test to become eligible for command roles on the Enterprise if needed, although she had little interest in a command of her own. Beverly Crusher passed this test, and in a potential future was assigned as a medical ship captain. The test can also be taken at the Academy in the final year, allowing for future postings down the line, such as the career of Hikaru Sulu. Usually, when a new starship is commissioned, or a vacancy in command opens up for a starship command, the Admiralty of Starfleet begins the process of poring over the records of eligible officers. The first place they turn to is usually the first and second officers of the ship that needs a captain, if it has a crew. But then they expand their search to commanders or lieutenant commanders across the fleet who may benefit the fleet by being in control of the starship. This period of review is also where recommendations from other admirals, captains, and those in command are weighed. A captain recommending their first officer for a new command is going to do a lot to bolster that commander's chances. Once a selection is made, then the offer goes through to that person, who is then at liberty to deny the position if they wish. Technically, they can order someone to assume the role of captain, but seldom do so, even under wartime circumstances. In most cases, the position then comes with the promotion in rank to captain, but not always. Depending on the nature of the vessel, ranks from lieutenant commander and up can assume the role of starship captain. Now, the exception to all of this is an emergency commission. Usually arising in a dire situation, a higher ranking officer, often the commanding officer at the time, can appoint any individual to temporarily assume command of the vessel. Another such situation could be when a captain is relieved of command. In this instance, it might come with a promotion in rank, but that is not a requisite. When this is done, the new captain will inevitably have to report back to Starfleet Command at some point and explain the situation, divulging all relevant logs, and an investigation is conducted. Then the officer may be relieved of their temporary command, or, if the Admiralty sees fit, they can maintain the appointment, making the promotion official and upholding it with a permanent appointment. This sort of ties into the earlier process too, where if a captain perishes, then the next highest officer is in command by default. But that's not entirely the same situation as battlefield or emergency promotion. For an example of this, we had the alternate universe version of Captain Kirk, who was not the highest ranking officer on the ship, but appointed a captain by emergency circumstances in the 2009 film. Then that promotion was upheld after he reported in. Or we have Cadet Tim Waters of the Red Squadron, who had a less fortunate end. And these are the methods of commanding a Federation starship. The CPT, straight from the Academy, or the officer's test later on. Whatever path chosen, whatever division, there is training that has to earn you a position in the command structure of a starship. From here, evaluations and reviews are submitted from senior members to continually examine suitability. Then from these, the Admiralty selects candidates to place into the chairs of select vessels based on their prior experience and the needs of that particular ship. Voyager, despite its initial outing, was a deep space science scout, so Janeway's background looked like a great choice. Kirk showed continual tactical aptitude, people skills, and was apt at diplomacy from the start, so he made for great flagship material. Same with Picard, and so on. Starfleet works on the premise of offering anyone a chance to try anything if they wish it, not only for the benefit of the fleet, but the benefit of the self. but the final selection is one of pragmatism. Most of the time. Of course, the final way is to have a daddy be an admiral, but that's harsh. Thanks for watching this breakdown. Until the next one, I've been Rick, and goodbye.